Do pain and suffering belong to life? The Buddhist art of embracing pain. Pain, suffering. Two words that often frighten us, that we avoid or fight against. We experience loss, disappointment, and loneliness, and we wish we could simply get rid of these experiences. But what if pain is not our enemy, but rather a part of life that we can understand and accept? Buddhism teaches us a fascinating truth. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. How we respond to pain determines our inner experience. This audiobook invites you to gain a new perspective on pain and difficult emotions. Together we will explore why pain is an essential part of life, why resistance intensifies suffering, and how we can approach pain with greater awareness. Are you ready to stop seeing pain as an enemy and start embracing it as a teacher? Then let's begin our journey. Chapter 1. The Nature of Suffering. Why Pain is Part of Life. In Buddhism, there is a central concept, dukkha. It describes the unavoidable reality of suffering. From the moment we are born, we are exposed to impermanence. We lose things that matter to us. Our bodies age. We fall ill and we experience emotional crises. This is the nature of life. However, there is a difference between what happens, pain, and our internal reaction to it. Suffering. Imagine receiving a painful rejection for a job you deeply wanted. The initial moment is painful, yes, but then thoughts arise. I'm not good enough. I will never succeed. Suddenly, the original pain is no longer just a passing moment, but turns into a recurring narrative in your mind, setting the process of suffering into motion. We often suffer more than we need to, and much of this is due to our resistance to reality. Chapter 2. Resistance amplifies suffering, the illusion of control. When we experience pain, our natural reaction is often resistance. We don't want it. We reject it. We ask, why is this happening to me? But this resistance only intensifies our suffering. Imagine someone fighting against a strong current in a river. They struggle with all their strength, but become increasingly exhausted. What if instead they learned to flow with the current? By doing so, they could conserve their energy and navigate downstream toward the shore. Examples of this can be found everywhere. When a relationship ends, we cling to memories, deepening our heartbreak. When we fear change, we fight the inevitable and drain our energy. When illness strikes, we worry more about the why instead of focusing on how to cope. But there is another way, acceptance. Chapter 3. Is suffering a choice? The Buddhist perspective. Is suffering a choice? A provocative question. One thing is certain, pain is not. We cannot prevent pain from occurring. After all, pain does not arise consciously or voluntarily. It appears often unexpectedly and sometimes in deeply unsettling ways. We face loss, rejection, and disappointment. Our bodies endure illness or injury, and our minds struggle with difficult emotions. Pain is an unavoidable fact of life. However, Buddhism teaches an important distinction. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This means that pain itself is not our greatest challenge. Our response to it is. It is our thoughts, reactions, and expectations that create or intensify suffering. A simple example illustrates this difference. Imagine two people who both lose their jobs. One is devastated, feeling worthless, and sees the dismissal as a personal failure. He believes his life is ruined and suffers from anxiety and self-doubt. The other reacts differently. Of course, he is also disappointed, but he views the job loss as an opportunity, perhaps even a fresh start. He asks himself, what can I learn from this experience? Where might this unexpected path lead me? The situation is the same for both, but their suffering is vastly different. The first clings to negative thoughts, deepening his misery. The second chooses a different perspective, one that allows him to move forward with clarity and openness. Buddhism teaches that our thoughts hold immense power. They can either trap us or set us free. When we begin to observe our thoughts instead of being swept away by them, we discover a new sense of freedom. Mindfulness is one of the keys to this transformation. Chapter 4: Ways to Approach Pain and Suffering More Consciously. While we cannot prevent difficult experiences from entering our lives, we do have the ability to change our response to them. Buddhism teaches that suffering can be consciously reduced by transforming our inner attitude. 3 key practices can help us in this process: mindfulness, compassion, and letting go. These 3 approaches allow us to stop fighting against pain and instead observe it with greater clarity and acceptance. This leads to a subtle yet powerful shift. Suffering loses its grip on us. Mindfulness, giving pain space without suppressing it. The first and perhaps most important practice in dealing with pain is mindfulness, the ability to stay present and consciously experience what we are feeling without judging or rejecting it. Often we tend to avoid or suppress pain. We distract ourselves, ignore our emotions, or get lost in mental loops about how unfair or unnecessary the pain is. But what happens when we choose to fully acknowledge pain instead? The practice of mindfulness helps us reduce suffering. When pain arises, whether physical or emotional, we can pause and consciously observe what is happening. Instead of immediately drifting into worry, anger, or fear, we can create a moment of stillness in which we simply notice, what am I feeling right now? Where exactly do I feel the pain in my body? What thoughts are arising? In this moment, we can recognize pain is present. But I am not only this pain, we can feel it without becoming entangled in a story about it. The next time you experience pain, whether it's discomfort, disappointment, or inner unrest, try the following exercise. Sit quietly for a moment and turn your attention inward. Acknowledge the pain without judging it or analyzing why it's there. Simply allow yourself to feel it. Breathe deeply and calmly. Notice how your breath flows in and out without needing to control it. Recognize the pain is there, but you are not just this pain. It is an experience, like a wave in the ocean, rising and falling, coming and going. This simple practice can help transform your relationship with pain. The more often we learn to be present with it, the less power it has over us. We begin to understand suffering is not necessarily a consequence of pain, but a choice we can consciously influence. Compassion, treating yourself like a good friend. The second practice is compassion, especially self-compassion. While many of us naturally feel compassion for others, we often struggle to extend the same kindness to ourselves. When we suffer, critical thoughts often arise. Why am I so weak? Or, I should be handling this better. But what if in these moments you spoke to yourself the way you would speak to a good friend? Imagine a loved one coming to you, sharing their pain. Would you say, "It's not a big deal. Stop overreacting"? You would likely listen, show understanding, and say something like, It's okay to feel this way. I'm here for you. We can adopt this same attitude toward ourselves. When you are suffering, try to meet yourself with warmth and understanding. Offer yourself a kind message. It's okay to feel this way. I am human. Place your hand on your heart and take a few deep breaths. Compassion allows us to accept pain without adding unnecessary self-judgment. Letting go, recognizing the stories that intensify our suffering. The third path is letting go, one of the most challenging yet liberating practices in Buddhism. Often it's not the pain itself that burdens us most, but the story we tell ourselves about it. We cling to thoughts like, "This should never have happened. I will never get over this. My life would be better if this hadn't happened." These thoughts create resistance and keep us trapped in suffering. But what happens when we let them go? Letting go does not mean suppressing pain or pretending it doesn't matter. It means consciously recognizing the thoughts that amplify our suffering and giving ourselves permission to release them. If you feel stuck in a narrative that deepens your suffering, ask yourself, is this thought really true? Or could there be another, more helpful perspective? What would change if I let go of this thought? Could I accept this moment exactly as it is, without resistance? By releasing the inner struggle fueled by our thoughts, we allow ourselves to experience greater freedom, the transformation of suffering. These three paths, mindfulness, compassion, and letting go, show that the key to dealing with pain consciously does not lie in avoiding or suppressing it, but in understanding, accepting, and releasing it. The pain itself may remain, but our inner attitude changes, and in this shift lies freedom. By learning to approach pain in a new way, we begin to reduce our suffering, not because the pain disappears, but because we relate to it differently, understanding suffering as a teacher. Pain is not our enemy. It is a teacher. It shows us where we are still holding on, what we need to let go of, and how we can grow. Within its challenge lies a deeper message. It reminds us to be mindful, to appreciate life's impermanence, and to cultivate compassion, both for ourselves and for others. The next time you experience pain or suffering, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I treat myself with more compassion? Can I accept this moment as it is, without resistance? The Buddhist path is not about avoiding pain, but about learning to engage with it consciously. It is a path of mindfulness, inner freedom, and deep understanding. How do you cope with pain and suffering? What strategies help you? Share your thoughts in the comments with the community, because even in sharing, there is a form of healing. In our next audiobook, we will explore the power of silence and stillness, another key to greater awareness and inner peace. Until next time, stay mindful and compassionate.